All right, let's get right into it. There's a new certification making waves for project managers, the PMI CPMI. And the big question on everyone's mind is pretty simple. In this world that's just buzzing with AI, is this thing a real career game changer, or is it just a bunch of expensive hype? Well, we're going to break it all down. Look, AI isn't just coming for our jobs, it's completely rewriting the playbook for project management. I mean, the old methods, the stuff we've relied on for years, they're starting to look a little outdated. And that leads to a pretty serious question for every single PM out there. Are you actually ready to adapt, or are you going to get left behind? Okay, so let's dive into our first section here. We're going to explore this new reality, this AI wave that is crashing into the world of project management right now. To really get a grip on what's happening, we need a new way of thinking about it. You've probably heard of VUCA, right? Well, we're now in what they're calling a BANI world. That stands for brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. And guess what's one of the biggest things fueling all this chaos? Yep, it's AI. It's making our projects way more unpredictable, and our trusty old models, well, they're just not cutting it anymore. This instability is exactly why new skills are suddenly in such massive demand. So, right into the middle of all this chaos, a potential solution pops up on the horizon. But as you're about to see, the initial reaction from the project management community was, well, let's just say people were a little skeptical. And that solution was the CPMI. It stands for Cognitive Project Management for AI. Originally, it was created by a smaller company called Cognilytica, and its whole purpose was to be a specific methodology for handling these super complex AI and machine learning projects. But almost immediately, the questions started flying around on places like Reddit. Like this one from user oddfarm2309, who just asked, is this certification well known? And you know what? That one simple question perfectly captures why everyone was hesitating. I mean, nobody wants to spend a ton of money on a credential that recruiters have never even heard of. And speaking of spending money, the original price tag was a whopping $2,500. Seriously, for a pretty niche certification with almost no name recognition, that was a huge, huge barrier for just about everyone. And this really gets to the heart of it. This quote from Reddit user PMP.io just nails it. It seems like an extremely expensive course where there is actually no certifying body to validate the credential. That was the whole problem in a nutshell. It cost a fortune, and it didn't have that stamp of approval from a big-name player like PMI. But then, everything changed. And this brings us to the real turning point in the story, the moment PMI decided to step in and completely flip the script on this certification's future. Okay, wow, this slide really tells the whole story. Just look at the before PMI column. A crazy $2,500 price, barely anyone knew about it, and the exam wasn't even proctored. Now look at the after column. The price just plummets to around $700. It gets the official PMI backing with those Credly badges, and the exam becomes a formal, proctored test through Pearson VUE. I mean, this was a massive, massive boost in legitimacy. And this timeline just shows you how fast it all happened. Look at this. In early 23, you've got people on Reddit questioning the whole thing. But then, bam, November 24, PMI acquires it and the price drops. Fast forward to early 25 and the exam is formalized. And just a year after that, March 26, local PMI chapters are actually hosting events about it. It went from this fringe idea to totally mainstream in an incredibly short amount of time. So now that it has PMI's stamp of approval, what do the people who've actually taken the course think about it? Let's dig into some of the community reviews and get the real verdict. So on the positive side, you have feedback like this from Oak Courage 8325, who said, I recently got my certification and I feel qualified to manage and hire the right members of a dev team on any AI project. This really highlights the core value, right? It seems to give you practical, confidence-boosting knowledge you can actually use. But it is not all sunshine and rainbows. User No Guarantee 5192 had a totally different experience, especially with how the course was delivered. They found the narrators condescending and irritating, and the interface laggy and buggy. And that's a really important point. You can have great content, but if the user experience is bad, it can ruin the whole thing. And here is a fantastic, practical tip from Living Taste 2937, who basically learned you have to take a ton of notes. Why? Because you don't get the slides to download later. So this tells us the course is really content heavy, and you have to be an active learner, not just sit back and listen. But this is probably the most critical piece of feedback from that same user. Update. I failed. They point out that retakes are not free, and you are on a strict 90-day clock to finish the entire course and pass the exam. This is a serious, serious warning. The exam is tough, and the pressure is on you from the moment you sign up. Okay, so let's try to bring this all together. With all this info, the good, the bad, the warnings, how do you actually decide if this certification is the right move for your career? Let's take a look at the big picture. First, let's just set a baseline here. We already know from PMI's own data that getting your PMP can give you a major salary boost, about 29% higher than your peers who don't have it. This just shows you the incredible long-term power of a globally recognized certification. So the real question is, could the CPMIA eventually have a similar kind of impact? So this slide really breaks it all down nice and neat. On the pros side, you've got the huge advantage of PMI's backing, you're getting a solid foundation in a massive growth area, and the price is way more reasonable now. But on the cons side, you have to think about the buggy course delivery some people mentioned, a really tough exam with pricey retakes, and the fact that it's not exactly a standard job requirement, at least not yet. The decision really comes down to weighing these things for yourself. But honestly, here's the real takeaway. This whole conversation is bigger than just one certification. The entire industry is shifting under our feet. I mean, the PMP exam itself is getting updated by mid-2026 to include more AI and hybrid project management. So whether you get this specific cert or not, this knowledge is quickly becoming non-negotiable. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. AI is fundamentally reshaping what it means to be a project manager. So the only question that's really left is, how are you going to reshape your career to meet it?